This video is just a very brief success story on how I manifested myself out of depression. But I want to say, consult experts, okay? I'm not an expert in mental health. This is just my personal story. I'm not saying that it has to be the same way with you. I am taking mental health very, very serious, okay? It's just my personal story. So what happened was that I was in a deep low. I think it was about 2013. It was before I knew about manifesting. I was on the split twin flame journey. So I had met this person that I had this very strong connection with. There was telepathy. He was my best friend and also the man I loved. However, we didn't really get together in that way. Even though there was love on both ends. It was not because of a third party. There were other reasons involved. There were mental health issues actually involved why it never really took off, even though there was a lot of love there. And this person triggered a great healing process within me, finding myself, feeling myself. But many of you may have heard the term dark night of the soul. So there was this big separation, and it was our second and last, because after that was a couple of years later. It was the second big separation we've had. We've had two, and the second, you could say, was final. I got into peace after a while. I trusted that it would work out. But maybe some of you have heard that once you have met your catalyst, and for me the split twin journey he was a catalyst for me to prepare me for the real guy. But it was really intense. My feelings for him were really intense. I've never loved anyone in my life so much. I have never trusted anyone as much. I had never felt at home with anyone as much back then. So when the separation came, it really pushed me into the darkness, and I can honestly say the edge of suicide. I was suicidal. Seriously, I was very close. I was already at the point where I was selling stuff, throwing away stuff, and actually starting to plan how to do it. I was very serious with it. And I was suffering like crazy, honestly. The first 10 days I couldn't even eat. I tried on a couple of days in and I had to vomit. I was basically like a zombie. I don't remember much except for lying in bed or on the couch. Still went to the university. I was functioning there, but I was like a zombie. And that phase took maybe like 4 months or so. It was like October, and I remember in February I was watching spiritual videos. I mean, I've always been on a spiritual journey, but I found a channel back then. It's a German channel, and I saw some videos that kind of really clicked with me. And on one day I decided, no more. I'm done with this now. I need to get myself up. What my personal motivation was actually him, because I knew that we were that strong connected, and I knew that he did love me. So I thought that if I would kill myself, that he may follow. So my motivation, I didn't care about my life at that point much, I have to admit. I cared about him, and I know it's an awful thing to say, but it's the truth. It was where I was at that point. So I decided to get better so that he could get better for him. And it was a conscious decision. It was like, no more. I'm done with depression. I'm done now. And the next day I woke up and the pain was gone. Honestly, it's as simple as that. That really conscious decision put me onto another timeline. And from then my ascension, you could say, really started progressing. In 2012 at the university, for example, I took a philosophy seminar on animal rights, which was then in that February 2013. One of the reasons why I decided to become a vegan. I wasn't even a vegetarian before. I had started eating little meats also because Spirit told me often stop eating meat. They had been telling me that for years. And that was one day I just decided, okay, I'm a vegan now. And I decided I'm focusing on my spiritual journey. I am well now. And that's how it happens. And I don't want to mock anyone, because I know people often don't take mental health issues serious. They say, oh, just be happy. Just go out, just be happy. What they don't get is that depression can also be a chemical imbalance within you. You're not producing any happy hormones. So I get that, yes. And I'm not trying to mock people by saying, oh, just get better, just get well. I'm just saying this is what happened for me. And in the last video, in another video, I was more talking about how we change our bodies when we change to a different timeline. But for me, this was a change of mindset that occurred overnight. How do I think it's possible? Well, I do have a video on, it's called something like scientific proof that most diseases can be healed within seconds or something like that. I've always been very interested in psychology, and for a while I was really interested in what used to be known multiple personality disorder. I know it has a different name now, dissociative disorder. I don't know the exact term, I'm sorry, but it used to be multiple personality disorder, and I believe most of you know what it is. It is different personalities sharing one body. Due to trauma, there was a split in that person's, let's call it mind or psyche, and now there's different stream of consciousness, you could maybe say, sharing the same body. What's interesting is that some of them may have diseases and others don't. So some of those alters may need glasses, others don't. Some of those alters may have high blood pressure and even need to take medicine. But then when another alter who shares the same body comes to the front, immediately blood pressure is okay. Some alters may have diabetes and maybe even need to inject themselves with insulin. Other alters that share the same body don't, which kind of implies it cannot be a physical thing. It must be something that has to do with energy and not with the body, because if all alters share the same body, then all must have the same heart problems, right? All must have the same disease like diabetes, asthma. Why are some alters blind and others are not, even though they share the same eyes? So it must be something above it, which means when one alter, or when within a person with multiple personality disorder, they can change the alters within a couple of seconds, just a couple of seconds, till another personality comes to the front and pushes the one that was at the front back. Just a couple of seconds, till the body has high blood pressure, so high they even need medication, till no high blood pressure. Just a couple of seconds from going, I need medication for diabetes, to I don't need medication for diabetes. Healthy, sick body within seconds. So it is possible to immediately shift. Also, of course, there is amazing scientists out there like Dr. Joe Dispenza and also Dr. Bruce Lipton. I suggest you to Google them or type their names into YouTube if you're interested more in what we can do. Dr. Joe Dispenza has been working a lot with brain scans and what's happening in meditation and shifting energies, and Dr. Bruce Lipton has been an expert, even a professor for genetics and epigenetics, and he also says, no, we can heal. In my experience, yes, it was a very conscious decision. I don't know exactly how I did it. I'm sorry, I cannot give you any formula. For me, it was just a real conscious decision. No, this needs to end now. I'm done with depression. And then it stopped. The next day it was gone. And I had been in there, I was in zombie mode for like 4 months. I don't have much memories when it comes to that phase, to be honest, because it was all foggy. I was like really, suicidal, to be honest. And guess what? Since that conscious decision, yes, there have been some low days. Of course, that's life. But I never went back into depression, not once. That cycle ended for me back then. Never again. Just, sometimes life throws you a curveball and you have a couple of unpleasant days. But that's the thing with spiritual ascension. You learn to step into your power, and after a while you learn, oh my God, everything is mirroring me, so I got this. I just have to, I'm not a victim. I just have to sit down and see what's mirrored back to me. And then there's more waves coming. You don't step into this negative energy for a long time. For me, usually it may not even be days. I think nowadays when something throws me off, it may be the rest of the day and the next day is fine, or I learned to calibrate pretty quickly. So yeah, there was no depression ever since, I think it was February 2013, almost 9 years. So that is the story on how I, from one timeline where I was really depressed to one where I wasn't, and from that day on my spiritual ascension really skyrocketed, and it completely took me to another place. I mean, it's contrast, right? It's like most spiritual teachers say, you have to go through the dark night of the soul. You have some contrast, you have some really bad experience, and either you break, or I have the image of a trampoline. The further you jump down into that cloth, the further you go down, the higher you can go up eventually. And I just managed to really use that load to shoot me up. But as I said, if you have problems, consult an expert, or there is hotlines where you can talk to someone. You don't have to go through this alone. I did. That's my personality. I always go through everything by myself. You don't have to. And if you are going through this, I wish you so much strength. And if you know somebody who's going through this, please know that you can manifest a happy outcome for them as well, because everyone is you pushed out. When you change your assumptions about them, to be honest, you cannot save anyone, because there is this timeline where they're not well, and there's always going to be this timeline where they're not well. But if you can imagine them being happy again, then there is a timeline where they're happy. Or if you can't imagine them being happy right now because you see them suffer, but you could imagining, or you've seen them happy in the past, then there is a version of them out there that is happy. And we cannot create anything for others, especially since creation is finished, but we can put ourselves to the timeline where we experience that person being well. But first we have to create that image of them being well within us, so that can get pushed out, and we shift to the timeline where they get better. And the same goes with you. Imagine yourself being better, even if you can't feel it right now. The thing is, you don't have to feel it right now. Your subconscious mind believes you anything if you just repeat it often enough. And I would also suggest the revision technique. You don't have to go through this terrible experience or situation. You don't have to think about that. You just note, okay, I know there was this situation, and you can alter your memory. If you're in too much pain right now, then again, go get help and just push through. I have the image of a surfer in my head. If there's no wave right now, if there's no energy, if you cannot do it right now, sit it out, just push through, cry, let it all out. And if you have to cry for days until you have to throw up, been there, done that, especially in that phase, do that, because we all know there's a new wave coming, a new wave of energy. And if this is not your first depression, then you know that there have been situations where you got better. A new wave is going to come, and then you get on a board and you take that wave. When the new energy comes in, you do your work then. You don't have to do it right now. If get help, sit it out, trust the new wave is going to come. That's the circus of life. And then you do your shadow work, okay? Anyway, for me, just one really, really conscious decision put me onto a new timeline. I wish you all the best. I wish you strength and luck and love and light and goodness with the little sparkles on top, and smiles and beautiful sunrises and flowers and blossoms. That's the thing. After every winter there's a new spring. That's always my favorite season. Those couple of weeks when there's blossoms on the trees. There's always going to be a new spring. I wish you all the best. Bye bye.